Lisa Rath from Restaurant Systems Pro coming at you again. I wanted to talk about something that's really important when you're making your recipes, and that is weight to volume conversions. Now, when you buy spices, right, they all come in like a 5-pound container, or a 1 pound, I should say, 3-pound container, 1 pound container. So they all come by weight, but that's not how you use them. Unless you're a baker using things by the gram, generally you're going to use volume measurements, cups, tablespoons, fluid ounces, those kinds of measurements. So what you have to do before you can even start doing your recipes to make it easier on yourself is to convert them. Now, this is the equivalent of a normal baking cup. Okay, it's an 8-ounce cup. It's what you would use if you were at home baking, okay, for your flour or whatever. This is always 8 fluid ounces. The volume of this cup never changes. Okay, what can change is what we put in the cup. So if I put lead in this cup, it's going to weigh very differently from feathers in the cup, right? If I fill it up with feathers, they're going to weigh differently, but they will both always be 8 fluid ounces. Okay. So what I'd like to do is show you how I set people up when I go out. Okay, again, we're going to tare. All right, now, let's find out what a cup of basil weighs. There's generally a lot of confusion with weight to volume conversions. And I see this happen a lot in recipes where somebody will put in a recipe that maybe requires they'll say it's 2 ounces, but it's really 2 fluid ounces, which is very different. Okay, because you can see this dried basil doesn't weigh a whole lot. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and weigh it. All right, it's 1.2 ounces. That is what 1 cup of dried basil is. Now, let's contrast that with some Old Bay seasoning. Okay, so same volume, but Old Bay is at 5.8 ounces. Quite a lot heavier than the other one. Let's do one for salt, because this is the most commonly used item. That's regular iodized granulated salt. Okay, you can see that it weighs out at 10.6 ounces. Okay, so all of these weigh differently, and so they all need to be set up to be used by volume, because by and large they're gonna be using things like spoons or 2-ounce containers, or take your pick of measurements, and that is how you're going to use these in a recipe. So let's make it easier on yourself. Get all this done at the beginning, and in the next segment I'm going to show you how to put it all together in a batch recipe that converts it from weight to volume. All right, everybody, to finish our lesson, I showed you on camera how to measure for spices for your weight to volume conversion so that you can use these in your recipes in terms of cups, fluid ounces, tablespoons, and teaspoons. So here is the rest of the process. The rest of the process is, once you find out what your conversions are, that you will come in here and you will create a recipe for them that can then be used in other recipes. So I'm going to go into food systems and to recipe costing cards. I'm going to use my plus sign to create a new recipe. Now, this recipe is a batch recipe. Okay. What I always do when I'm setting people up is I will call it, let's just say, Old Bay seasoning by volume. That lets whoever is making the recipes know that there is a volume recipe in here for it. Okay, so once you do that, you make it active, right, and you save it. Now you can add the ingredient. So what we did earlier was we weighed out 1 cup of Old Bay seasoning. So I'm going to add my ingredient Old Bay. Okay, and I have it here in my group. All right, and we came out with 5.8 ounces. All right, so it's quantity in multiples of 1 ounce, right? So it's 5.8 ounces. My quantity note is also 5.8 ounces. All right, and that is the only ingredient in this particular conversion recipe. So now down here, I'm going to ask myself, what does this recipe yield? What do I get for 5.8 ounces of Old Bay seasoning? Well, I get a cup, right? I get 1 measuring cup. All right, so always write in your description boxes. And then my quantity is 1 and my unit is cup. This is what is going to break it down for you for your recipes. Now, for my storage, I can go by the tablespoon. So I can say 1 tablespoon, 1 tablespoon. All right, and then let's do the portion, which is the smallest unit of measure. Okay, and I'm going to say 1 teaspoon. And calculate and save. So now I can use this, I can actually use this in recipes. All right, now, because this part shouldn't change, right? Once you find a way to do this, pick it and stick with it, okay? So this part here will remain the same. So what we can do with this recipe now is clone it. So I'm going to clone it, and I'm going to do iodized salt by volume, because that was the next one that we did. Okay, when you clone something, all you have to do then is swap out the ingredient. So I'm going to double click it and type in salt. Right there. Okay, and I know, sorry, I guess that wasn't the right one. Here we go. And this one, you may or may not remember, was 10.6 ounces. So I'm going to do 10.6 ounces, right? And then all of this is still correct. We're going to do one more. I'm going to clone this again. And we're going to do basil dried by volume. Swap this out. And this was, as you may or may not recall, was only 1.2 ounces. Okay. What you should glean from this is that no matter which spice we were working with, they all weighed differently, but they were all exactly the same amount in terms of volume. So they all equaled 1 measuring cup, which was 8 fluid ounces. Okay, then we broke it down into a tablespoon and ultimately a teaspoon. Please let us know if you have any questions about anything that we've covered in this particular lesson. We have a chat function, plus you can also call in to our tech support line if you have questions. Thank you very much.